Okay, if you recall, we had discussed how important it is to really focus on building good, strong foundations over getting involved with any kind of gimmicky strategies, whether that's, with nutrition or fitness. There's so much information out there, but of course, there's so much misinformation out there as well. So, we talked a little bit about pillar one, which is really your foundational elements when it comes to nutrition. And now we're going to get into pillars two and three. So with pillars two, what we're really looking at is our movement. So we're going to take a look at when it comes to movement, what are some of the key elements you want to make sure you're implementing? Now, when it comes to moving your body, we want to think about really training movements over muscles. A lot of times people go into the gym or they start an exercise program and they focus on really the muscle. And what I mean by that is they might focus on an isolated movement. So just think of, doing like a bicep curl. You're isolating the bicep. What we want to think about is we want to think more global, and we want to make sure we're looking at, again, efficiency. We want to look at safety, and we want to look at doing things that is going to have a direct impact or direct correlation to life and how we move our body. And when we actually perfect some of these basic movement patterns, everything in our life becomes easier. We want to make sure we're moving pain-free. We want to make sure we're moving with a somewhat of a grace and elegance because that means that we are unimpeded with fascia restriction. So we've got better mobility and better movement, better flow within our body. And when it comes to the big seven or the primal movement patterns that we want to focus on. When you're exercising, you want to think about squatting. We want to think about some sort of hinge or bending movement. We want to think about pushing, whether that's a vertical or a horizontal pull. So we're pushing either something overhead or pushing away. We want to think about a pulling movement. And then we want to work on grip strength. So it'd be working on a carry. So if you had, some heavy water jugs or heavy dumbbells, something to work on the grip strength while we're moving. And so if you had two dumbbells in your hand and you focus on good posture and you're walking with that, it's not only going to enhance grip strength, but it enhances the connection between your upper body, your lower body. You're going to have greater core stability involvement with, especially if you're under load. So again, we want to squat, we want to hinge or bend, push, pull, carry, and then any type of rotatory action. And then another thing we want to think about is just gait. So it's walking, it's jogging or running, but tremendous benefits to just walking. Particularly, we had talked about after eating, 20 to 30 minutes, then even as little as 10 minutes after you eat to help stabilize blood sugar. It's one of the most impactful things you can do is right after you eat, just move your body, just walk. So again, I'm going to say it again. We got our squat, a hinging type movement, or bending forward. We've got a lunge, a push, a pull, carrying something heavy, and heavy is relative to the individual, of course, and then any type of rotational movement. So those are the exercises that should really have a place in your routine. And we want to make sure if you're exercising, we gravitate away from more machine use and doing more like body weight or exercises that would maybe include dumbbells or kettlebells or bands, doing things that are maybe more multi-planar. So you're going forward, you're going to the side, you're rotating, exercises like that. So training these patterns develops total body strength and coordination. And again, it has a really strong carryover to um, your life. So the stronger you get in these planes and doing these exercises, the greater correlation that has, or the greater impact that has in improving your life. All right. Every other exercise is a variation of these core patterns, not a replacement. So we want to make sure, again, this is the foundation of your exercise program. And getting back to more gimmicky things is the more you get away from these movement patterns, potentially the more dysfunction that you can create in your body. We have to master. I always tell people it's like build your foundation and then go outward, right? You're not going to build your dream home on a crappy foundation. We have to build that strong foundation first. So you really want to always make sure your exercise program has those elements. So when we take a look at all the variances or the variables that go into a healthy body, we want to think about mobility and stability, flexibility and strength, cardiovascular fitness, and then also the health of your nervous system, and then our waste removal system or lymphatic activation. So when it comes to mobility and stability, mobility is really the range of motion within the joints. We want to make sure we have freedom of motion within the joints. So we want to articulate or move each joint segment the way it's designed to. So if you're 40 years old, you want to articulate that joint as many as 40 times. If that joint's been damaged or injured, we want to articulate or move that joint as many as 100 to 200 times. We want to break up any scar tissue, any calcium deposits that have formed in the joint, and we do that just by mobilizing or moving the joint. So you do that with your neck, your shoulders, your wrists, your elbows, knees, hips. We always want to mobilize the joint. And then stability, we want to make sure we're doing certain exercises that stabilize your joints. And so for most people, they tend to have more rounded shoulders, right? So they tend to have instability and they'd be more vulnerable to shoulder issues. If you've got weakness in your core, you're more apt to have breathing dysfunction, maybe some low back or hip pain. So we always want to make sure each joint segment, whatever we're talking about, those muscles are balanced. So certain muscles have a propensity under stress to get short and tight. Other muscles have a propensity to become long and weak. So we have to be able to evaluate what muscles are too tight, stretch them, what muscles that are too weak, and strengthen them. So a lot of times when people are doing general exercise programs, what happens is they're actually doing a cookie cutter program. It's not customized for that individual. So consequently, what happens is they'll just get tighter and out of balance, or they'll get looser and out of balance. So we have to balance these length tension relationships, right? And when we do that, that's posture. And when we optimize our posture, then we can do more of a cookie cutter type program, but we can be safe and we can optimize that. If we're not fully functional and we're doing a cookie cutter type program, it can be potentially injurious, and we're certainly not going to be as efficient as we could. Flexibility and strength, we want to make sure we're working on getting our body stronger, particularly after the age of 50. Hormones are really changing pretty significantly. That's why strength training is critical after the age of 50. And if you're not strength training, you need to implement that into your fitness program. And then any type of cardiovascular fitness program that you can do. Again, just starting out with walking. Walking's a great form of improving cardiovascular fitness. You're improving fluid dynamics in the body. And walking's a great way to get started. Um, and then just in terms of your nervous system, there's certain reflexes we have that we can stimulate these reflexes. So for instance, the analogy I always like to give people is if you have lights on, or if you have a light bulb and it's not on, you know you have power to the building. Why isn't that light bulb on? Well, sometimes you have to flip the switch. So if you flip the switch, that surge of power goes into the light, then the light turns on. It's the same thing with the nervous system. If we stimulate certain points, then we'll get the message from our brain via the nervous system to the muscles. So sometimes a muscle can be turned off and it's not engaging, and that can lead to joint pain. Well, we can go through some of these reflexes and turn that muscle on instantaneously, and all of a sudden you don't have that joint stress. So that's, really working on the nervous system. And then also, most people live in fight or flight. And so what we want to do is get people out of fight or flight, that sympathetic upregulated state, more parasympathetic, calming the nervous system down, and we do that through breath work. So, a great way to upregulate your rest and digest or parasympathetic part of your nervous system is to actually inhale, for instance, for a 4 count. So you'd inhale through your nose for a 4 count, pause for about 6 or 7 seconds, and then a long sustained exhale of up to 8 seconds. So ultimately, we want a 4, 7, 8. So it's an inhale for 4, pause for 7, exhale for 8. If 8 is too long, then go to 7. 7 is too long, go to 6. We just want a longer uh, exhale than our inhale. That will help to calm your nervous system. Great to do this before you eat. Great to do this right away in the morning to make sure you have a more expansive bandwidth, so you can start your day in a more expansive state, a more calm state, and then even to facilitate restful sleep at night. And then your waste removal system, your lymphatic system, most of the people that we see that come in have congested lymphatic systems, so they're not pushing out the inflammation of their body, and they're not removing that waste product that can actually accumulate in the body, recirculate in the body. And what we want to do is we want to make sure the lymphatic system is functioning optimally, and so we can push out that inflammation, push out those toxins out of the body. We have approximately 600 to 700 lymph nodes in the body, 6 primary areas where they cluster: your shoulder, your neck, in your chest, your abdominal area, in the groin area, and behind the knees. So we want to be able to stimulate those specific areas, and that will help mobilize those toxins out of the body. Very important for the lymphatic system's health. All right. Then the other thing we want to talk about is a lot of people are very familiar with working out, of course, but when we're working out, we're expending energy, we're expending life force. And what we want to do for most individuals is, because most people are living in that fight or flight, they need to cultivate life force, cultivate energy. And one of the ways we can do that is restorative yoga, Tai Chi. Another thing is just the breath work we just talked about. It's a great way to cultivate energy within your body, because if we're expending, and we're not, cultivating that energy, we're not receiving that positive energy, and we're just going to get burnt out. So the working in is just as important as working out. And in some cases, it's more important, because if people are really imbalanced, it's going to bring them back to a state of balance. So remember, working out, very important. Working in, equally as important. So we always, if you're going to invest or allocate X amount of time with your nutrition, with your fitness, with any kind of wellness program, then we have to ask this question: am I getting the most bang for my buck? Is my return on investment, ROI, is that optimized, right? So we want to think about how are we spending our time and our energy, and what we're doing, is it moving the needle in a positive direction? Is my program just a cookie cutter program, or is it customized for me as an individual? Most people, it's just a cookie cutter program. And we want to get to the root causality of what is the underlying imbalance that is creating some of these symptoms in people's body. Or if we want to really push you in a positive direction, then we have to understand where you're starting and what are some of the imbalances present. So again, we've got to build the strong foundation. We establish the solid groundwork. And sometimes it's tedious and sometimes it might be boring. But if we focus on all the key components, sometimes we have to kind of dig into the minutia and look at all the small little variables that are going to be very impactful. And if we do that, we're really, really going to move the needle forward in that positive direction, improving the way we look, the way we feel, and the way we perform on a regular basis. Most people, with a lot of the stuff, they're just going through the motions. So they're not getting a strong return on their investment, of time or energy. So make sure you pay attention to all the small details. Simple action steps. Now, when it gets to the nutrition, eat whole foods. So that's minimally processed. You shop the outside aisles, and we're looking for things not in a box bag or wrapper, but things with vibrant colors, a lot of micro trace elements, phytonutrients, antioxidants, all these powerful building blocks to our nutrition is what we're looking for. 80 to 90% of your meals, that's really what you want. I like to be closer to 90%, where 90% of the time you're really tight, you're really disciplined, and then 10% of the time, if you want some sort of treat, maybe something that doesn't fall within those guidelines, but you don't want to feel deprived, then you're still going to win. But if 90 becomes 80, becomes 70, becomes 60, you're just going to be inconsistent and you're not going to get positive results. Daily breathing and posture, breath work is the single most important thing that you could ever master if you really want to optimize your health, bar none. And we're breathing 20 to 25,000 times a day. And it gives us either an opportunity to optimize our health or detract from it. And then lymphatic flow, restful sleep. So we want to make sure our lymph is pushing out those toxins. We want to make sure that we're getting a consistent sleep schedule. We have good sleep hygiene. We want to be in a relatively cool room. We want to get, minimum of 7, preferably 8.5, even pushing 9 hours whenever you can for restoring and repairing your body. And then anytime you can get some data on your sleep with some of these tracking devices. I like the Oura Ring. You have low electromagnetic stress, but you get great data like your breath rate, your heart rate variability, your deep sleep. There's a lot of really good measurables. So what gets measured can get managed, and that's super important when it comes to identifying maybe some of these things we can do to kind of tweak and then see if these things we're implementing are changing what the data says in the ring and you're feeling better. So the big thing is most people, there's so much information here. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. Sometimes it can be confusing. So if you feel you're looking for some expert consultation or you need a tailored solution based on, your own physiology, where you're currently at, please go ahead and reach out to us. If you have any questions or you want to set up a consult to see how we can maybe customize your health, your fitness, your wellness program, and very tailored to everything you have going on. So just give our office a call, and we'd love to be able to help you reach your goals in 2026. The one thing I will say without question is there's so many committed people that unfortunately tend to go through the motions because they don't really understand um, some of the nuances that go into this and all the variables and the minutiae. So we want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're getting the highest return on investment. So hopefully you get some good value from that. That all made sense to you. If you have any questions, again, call our office, 952-220, 20 or 7201. Again, that's 952-220-7201. And we'd be more than happy to answer any questions. If you want to do a consult to see how we can help you deeper, just ask for myself, Rob, and we'll see what we can do to help you. So until our next video and our next communication with you, go out and make it a great day. You certainly do deserve it. And bye for now.